FeCRA recently ran an event called A Happy City, a Landscape for a 21st Century. Key issues for residents are transport, strong communities, and health. What specific things would you do as an MP to make sure that Cambridge is a happy city for the people who live and work here?
I think so. I'm very keen that we start to use other measures to rate our happiness. So moving forward, we would talk to the citizens of Cambridge to understand their goals, things that make them happy. So again, back to using sortition, random selection of citizens, we would work out what are the things that are what they need to change or what they need to keep the same to make them and their children and the future generations happy within the city.
So I think this is a brilliant question. One thing that I've campaigned for many years in Parliament and before that is that we should look away from a narrow focus on economic perspectives. GDP, for example, the standard measure of how somewhere is doing, is an atrocious measure of things we ought to actually care about. What we should care about is people's well-being. Do people like who they are, where they are, what they can do? And if we start thinking about well-being, we will have a much better place, a happier city, a place where people can achieve the things they want to do, see the things that they want to see. And that is really crucial. And that involves things like communities. Money matters, and we do have to tackle the gross inequalities that we do have in this city. But it's also about whether you know your neighbours, whether there are places that you can go to chat to people, whether you feel safe in your home. So we need to change how we measure things. That's something I've pushed for a very long time. So that means changing roads. They're not just transport arteries that divide communities, a place where communities can exist. We look about more community facilities, cultural facilities. And I think if we really focus on what it is that makes people happy with themselves, we will create a better Cambridge and a Cambridge that more people want to come to. We do absolutely, though, alongside that, have to tackle the inequalities. I think it is unacceptable that in a city like Cambridge, there's an 8-year life expectancy gap between the richer and the poorer areas. I just don't see how we can tolerate that sort of thing. I don't see how we can tolerate the idea that children from poorer areas get a less good quality of education. They fall behind by the time they're 5. Something which we've put money into already. We need to keep doing that, because we should not tolerate that sort of inequality here in a city like Cambridge. We shouldn't tolerate the fact that there are people having to sleep rough. We should do what we can to work with them as humans to fix that. But to go back to your original question, I'm delighted FeCRA chose to focus on well-being, on happiness, on how people actually feel in their city. I would love to work with FeCRA and anyone else to make sure that Cambridge is a much better place to live for all of its residents.
I would start by addressing some of the major problems with living in Cambridge. As we've talked about, it's all very well to grow, for Cambridge to be a rich and a prosperous city, but Cambridge is the most unequal city in the United Kingdom, and it's very important that as I've said before, there are pockets of deprivation in the city, areas where people aren't as well off. We need to make sure that those people have their basic needs met. It's not acceptable that there's a food bank in Cambridge City that gave out 5,600 food parcels last year. We need to make, first of all, sure that people's basic needs are met, and especially those on very low incomes. But more generally, Cambridge has significant problems with transport. Something like 250 people every year die from air pollution in and around the Cambridge area. I would deal with that by making sure that buses that are in this city are re-regulated so they're more effective for people, taking private car traffic off the road, that those buses are up to date, electric, efficient, and not diesel, so that air pollution is reduced, and work at really investing in active transport such as walking and cycling to help people get out and enjoy the health benefits of cycling and walking, and also cut down on that terrible air pollution as well. And it's also so important that Cambridge remains a good, nice place to live for people. It's not right that residence areas are being treated as corridors or arteries of ways of bringing more traffic in and out the city. Those people deserve nice local environments, trees, green spaces, and strong communities as well. So I would also stand up for investment in libraries, investment in public facilities, so that as the city grows and new housing developments go up, people have access to all of those good things, all of those things that make good communities. And we're not solely focusing on economic growth.
If Labour wins the election in a few weeks, I hope to be the local transport minister for the whole country. So I will have a real opportunity to really make a difference, not just for Cambridge but for elsewhere too. And I think it is the transport systems that are going to be the key to this. We've got to move quite dramatically, in my view, away from the transport systems we've inherited from the past. I want to see cars taken out of the cities far, far more. I want to see us moving much more to walking and cycling. And that involves some quite imaginative things like making sure there's places for people to park their bikes. We've been looking at some of the automated bike parking developments that we're seeing in some other cities around the country. Transforming the marketplace in the centre of Cambridge, real opportunity there. But actually putting clean air as a top priority, because I don't think people are quite aware just how dangerous our air quality is becoming in too many places. So we have a scheme to make sure we get rid of the dirty old diesel buses, which are still in some parts of the city causing us problems. A whole range of things could be done, but they're not going to be done if we just carry on as we are. So I think I can make a real difference. But even if Labour doesn't win, as a shadow transport minister, I have a role in those debates, and I believe that I can have probably a bigger influence from opposition than my alternative opponents in this election. I don't think that a small group of Liberal Democrat MPs will be able to have anything like the same influence as someone in my position speaking for my party from the front bench on transport issues. But my goal is to be in government and then really be able to make a difference.